Hi, I had some complaints about the audio for the Cypher remake video, so I want another stab on it. So I cleaned it up and I put in a few more important updates, but it is mostly a re-upload. If you want this new version of Cypher, there are a few days left on the Kickstarter. Link is in the description. There are only a few days left, but I'm sure you can also support it after the initial phase ends as well. And I will be here in the dark watching you. Cypher is up for a redesign, and we need to talk about it. Welcome to the Dead Unicorn, the tabletop role-playing game club. My name is Corey, and I talk about Cypher quite a bit on this channel. I've done a review of their main system and several of their genre books. There is a lot to like about the game. I'm a fan. That said, I'm also a reviewer. I talk about both the strengths and weaknesses of a role-playing game. And Cypher's creators are going to take a stab at a rewrite, maximizing their strengths and addressing their weaknesses. Seriously, I commend them for this. This is a big undertaking not to be taken lightly, especially when you have an already popular game. You run the risk of alienating fans by straying too far from what made them love it in the first place. But this usually happens only when you're trying to chase a new fan base. But if you don't make changes like these, the game can grow stale, as other, more innovative games become more popular, and all you have is a bunch of Grognar fans unwilling to change, stating that each new edition is just a cash grab. It was perfect the first time around. And I'm not saying that a new edition can't be a cash grab. This is why intention is very important here. For the sake of transparency, they made a little dev diary. I'll link in the description if you want to check that out. I'd like to give you my thoughts on their mindset and proposed changes, and then you can give your own thoughts down in the comments below. So let's talk about mindset. Monty Cook has been writing most of this design diary, and he says that he feels like a mechanic, constantly tinkering with his car, his baby, trying to get the most out of it. When he sees a flaw, he wants to just open up the hood and make some modifications. But in doing so, he wants to minimize the effect on the stuff he's already created, all of his past products. He wants adventures and NPCs to still be usable. So if the adventures are going to be the same and the NPCs are still going to be the same, that means we're going to be focusing on the PC side of things. That is where most of the rules will be changing. Now, he says that most of his tinkering has already appeared in many of the Cypher source books and genre books as optional rules or setting rules. And yeah, I thought that might be the case. There seems to be a good deal of optional rules in these books that felt more like quality of life changes. Small but meaningful, and useful far beyond the setting or genre book they're related to. So this new Cypher system will be adding in a few of the better optional rules, which I'm all for. One complaint I've had about the genre books, the white books, is that these books were made for the narrator in mind and not the player. They didn't have proper classes, what they call types, in these white books. No, they had ways to make your types. So you basically had to make your own player's guide for your players instead of having some templates already there ready to go. It made it hard for the narrator to start a game on the fly and players to build characters because they had to look through books, at least 2 books, meant for narrators. Well, I'm really tickled to say that this was something they also noticed. And going forward, they're making bespoke types for every genre, not just big generic types that you put a coat of paint on. And this is great. This means if you ever want to do a game on the fly, you can easily. But if you really want to fine-tune your world and the types in the genre books don't quite fit, you can make the types that you want too. It's the best of both worlds. But let's go down that rabbit hole. Let's say you want to create your own types, descriptor, and foci for your world. Now, in Cypher, your character consists of those 3 things. A descriptor, which is like a trait, a type, which is like your class, and your foci, which is like your cool special thing that you can do. Well, first off, they're floating the idea of making descriptors very simple, something that I always love to hear. But this reduces them to just a stat bonus and a skill, no special abilities. While this could work for descriptors like curious or tough, there are species descriptors too. So what happens to a fantasy creature's dark vision, a winged creature's or winged species flight? Well, we'll have to wait and see, but if I'm a betting man, I think they'll decouple species from descriptor. One of the bigger changes will be to foci, as these might change into a skill tree system. Skill trees can be very fun for players as they get to mix and match powers and see their character grow in interesting ways. But if you're a game designer or even just a narrator making their own focus for their own world or setting, this can add a real level of complexity to things. Complexity can be fun though, as the more levers you have to pull, the more dials you have to shift, the more you can change. Tinkerers might love this. Now let's move from complexity back to simplicity, as they are simplifying time the same way they simplified space. In Cypher, you have immediate, short, and long range. So, you don't have 5-meter squares, you have immediate range. They're doing this to time. So instead of minutes and hours, it will be more like rounds, short time, extended time. That's not exactly how it was put in the design diary, but I feel like that's a good approximation. So your power or ability might work for a short time, which may be a scene or encounter. Your artifact may work for an extended time, which might be until you take a 10-hour rest, or it might be one full day, or something like that. Right now, it's light on specifics, but this is something that can be found in many other games, and it works well. Hi, me in the future, I'm back. Monty Cook clarified that ciphers, those one-time gadgets that will give you a cool ability, well, they're going to be, at their base, all subtle. This means that when you get a cipher, they won't be a physical object unless specifically specified. Instead, a cipher is going to be a burst of adrenaline or insight that allows characters to take advantage of a situation. If I'm not mistaken, this is what PC intrusions used to be. Something that was personal to the character that kind of changed the game or allowed the PC to do something interesting without an object. Will they keep PC intrusions with ciphers? How will they be different? How will they differentiate them? I don't know. So in most genres of the game, it makes sense that most ciphers should be subtle ones, especially in non-mystical or sci-fi areas. A more grounded game would have these ciphers be at its base. So making manifest ciphers the odd ones out will cut down on confusion. I think this is an okay change. One thing they have not talked about, but I think really needs another look, is vehicle rules in Cypher. I think they're one of the clunkiest things in Cypher, and that they can get really unfair really fast. Let's hope they take this seriously. Since I'm re-uploading this video with a few changes, I'd like to go ahead and also talk about the new update to the design blog, this one called Genre Templates. Basically taking the genre flavor and adding it to another genre. Superhero plus mecha is a Power Rangers game. Sci-fi plus fantasy is a Star Wars game. It will be a quick way to add more to your game that you created. So a game master has to do less work. You can just take your sci-fi, grab your magic, put it on top of it, and you got what you need to do Star Wars, hopefully. That's how it's being pitched. I'm going to probably ignore all that and just overcomplicate things like all good game masters do. Or maybe I'm just silly and stupid and make more work for myself. But hey, I always appreciate the options that they give us. And I've left the best for last. In my review of the Cypher system, I said if they changed anything, to change how wounds work. How it is now is that you take damage from the same pool of resources that power your abilities. While so many of you love this idea of this kind of resource management, and I hear all of you. I got a lot of your comments on my Cypher review video, and I get where you're coming from. For so many others, this leads to a feeling that every time you do something cool and power your abilities, you're getting closer to death. Monty Cook even likened these kinds of players to misers clutching their pennies. Well, bah humbug to you, sir. You're just an unpractical Walter Mitty who doesn't know that a penny saved is a penny earned. You know, we all love tabletop RPGs. We're probably all Walter Mitty. Let's be honest. This isn't the first game that had an endurance system that was also your life force. It was in Dragon Quest. It was in Star Wars D20. The original version of that tried to have Jedi powers come from your vitality, your hit points. It really didn't work for them, and they had to revise things pretty quickly on that. Twice, actually, where they created a far better system in the end for handling the Force. I figured it was only time before Cypher embraced something different as well. So what is this different thing? Well, it's a 3-tiered wound system: minor, moderate, and major wounds. Minor wounds are scratches and bumps. Moderate wounds are cuts and sprains, and major wounds are broken bones and head injury. 5 minor for a moderate, 4 moderate for a major, and 3 major until death. There are also some penalties for having moderate and major wounds. You can heal these up by spending might points. So you still have the same resource management system. But now there are 2 very different ways to play: absorbing wounds with armor and might, or avoiding wounds with speed. Previously, doing this was basically identical. Might defense and speed defense was just 2 flavors of the same thing. But now it's become 2 very different playstyles. Bravo, I'm on board. And with all of these changes comes a new name. Cypher system is now just Cypher, and will have a character book for players and a GM book for narrators. You can check out their crowdfunding campaign below. It won't go live until sometime next year, and I'm sure there will be more to talk about until then, so subscribe to the Dead Unicorn. I think most of these changes are positive, and being a fan of Cypher and Monty Cook games, I've come to trust them and their way of game development. It isn't their first refresh, and every time they've done it, it's been a positive experience. I say, let Monty Cook cook. But nobody's perfect, and I'll be watching and talking about this, as will many others. If you're a fan of Cypher, you should check out Fantasy Reborn Magazine, a little project that I've been making on my Patreon. Classic D&D adventures with full modification guide to run them in the Cypher system. Don't miss out, as each issue covers a different module, but at the end of the month, it vanishes forever and replaced by the new issue with a new module. Thank you to all of my patrons. I love having this channel to talk about RPGs, and blessed to have all of you as my viewers. Thank you, and go roll some dice.